Recording.
Okay, Mark, we're starting.
Oh, are we on the air?
Hello, Mark Lewis. We are here today with Mark Lewis, the great Mark Lewis. Mark, how are you doing?
Well, I'm nearly dead. I'm in the middle of trying to have a cup of tea. And it's horrible. They don't make tea in Canada properly.
They don't make anything. We can't even get a proper burger here.
Nothing like a good British cup of tea. And in Canada, you get nothing like a good British cup of tea. Anyway, we've started.
Yeah, we have started.
Right,
so, Mark, what are we talking? Oh, I read your book.
What book?
Yeah, Lives of a Showman.
Oh, I'll give it to you for free. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I know. You should have
Did myself out $40 there.
I don't think it cost you $40 to print it. But anyways,
we won't go into that.
So
it's not expensive. It's not. When you write your biography, you'll find it. Anyway, never mind. Continue.
So I read the book. I thought it was a very interesting book. Is there anything you'd like to say about the book? I want to know why you decided to write a book, because the book focuses about your life, and there's some parts that, are very personal. There's parts about magic. There's parts about your life, but. Why? What was it that drove you to put all that stuff into print? And
David Ben.
David Ben.
David Ben. You know who David Ben is?
I do.
Do we have to explain? Have to explain to the wide world out there who David Ben is, or?
You can. I mean.
You explain.
So David Ben is a magician from Toronto. Okay.
Very, very eminent.
Very animate.
Eminent.
Eminent. Oh, eminent. Okay.
Eminent magician, and he suggested that I should write this book.
And
he would publish it.
Okay.
But in the end, I published it myself.
Okay.
So that's cut long.
And what was the book originally supposed to be about? Just your life?
Me, of course.
Okay. And so
my favorite subject.
And the book covers pretty much your whole life, correct?
There's many parts missing from the book.
Okay.
There's lots of things I did not include. Maybe that'll come out in the second book.
Are you writing the second book? Would you like to?
Eventually, not right now.
Well, you should. You
eventually. If
I hear you're gonna die soon.
That's true. So I may do it as a second book, but it's for various reasons I'm not ready for a second book yet.
Okay. Interesting. And how did the book do? What was the reception like?
The what?
What did people think about the book?
Well, you read it. What did you think about it?
I thought it was good. I honestly thought it
got
was
rave reviews.
I thought it was a very good book.
It got a lot of reviews.
Honestly, it was better than I thought it would be. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I thought you would just be, in character, but you're not in character writing the book.
You don't know what my character probably is my character. We all have different characters. The characters we show to the world, and the real character.
Yeah.
You'll actually see. There's a lady. Okay. There's a site. I better not expose her. But there's a woman on YouTube. Okay. And she's complaining about all the psychic fairs she's doing. She was a rookie at psychic fairs, and she did not do very well. She didn't like it. She hated it. And she said, "There's a lot. When this video is finished, I'll tell you privately, where to look."
Is this
on YouTube?
Okay.
Okay.
No, is this a girl mentioned in the book? Is this?
No.
Okay.
Nothing. No, not at all. This is a Canadian rookie psychic who starts doing the Canadian psychic fairs and does not do terribly well with them. But she decides to do long videos, blogs. Like they go on for ages, half an hour, 45 minutes on YouTube.
Yeah.
And she's just explaining. So I get mentioned, but not by name, in a very brief. She's saying, "Oh, you're a bit weird. This psychic's weird, and that psychic's weird." So and there's a fella there. She says he's like a Houdini type of fella, does card tricks, and he's very loud and very showman. And she says, "I've got no problem with that." Right?
You are a spitting image of Houdini.
I'm pleased to hear it. I don't think I am. But that's why I bought the book along. What was I talking about?
You were talking about this girl psychic.
The terrible bloody interviewer interrupting me in the middle of it. What was I talking about?
You were talking about
this woman,
child psychic.
So anyway, to cut a long story short, she did not mention my name. She says Houdini does this. She says, but he's completely different. She said, I've tried to say hello to him, and he ignored me. and I was in Tim Hortons, and I said hello. And he's very quiet, and he's very he's nothing like his public image. So we're not all. What I'm trying to say is we're not what we appear to be.
Okay.
It's an illusion.
That makes sense.
Very shy and quiet.
Do you?
I worked in a bank once. I wouldn't speak to anybody there. I didn't even take my. When they came to pay me they forgot to pay me 1 week. You know, pay me weekly payment, and they did not pay me 1 week. So I said nothing. I said nothing. I'm too shy.
But you don't strike me as a shy person.
I was worse then. I was not as shy as I used to be. If people don't give me my money now, you'll soon hear about it.
And do you feel like pitching is like the opposite of your real persona?
Probably.
Like
yeah.
when you're screaming, not screaming, but you have a loud voice.
No, that's right. That's what she said. That's what the woman said. She said, "There's nothing. That's not his real persona." She said, "No, she's psychic."
So there are people apparently with psychic powers.
Right.
And you're one of them.
I'm one of them.
And
I knew you were going to ask that. Like I'm psychic.
No, I'm not asking if you're psychic. I think it's quite fascinating. Do you feel that most of the people in the business are genuinely psychic?
Look,
because it is a.
I should have discussed this video with you before you started.
Okay.
But please bear in mind that I have many of my, since it's going out to the wide world public, you're worried about the music copyright, and so you should be, right? I am more worried about, I have clients, and my clients go to other, I can't go saying rude things about other psychics.
We're not talking about other psychics.
Editing.
Oh, editing.
No, we're not going to edit anything.
Oh, fine.
Sorry.
What was your question then?
No, my question is, so I think it is a fascinating field. I don't know what to believe. I've never myself seen another person who is genuinely psychic demonstrate.
We are all psychic. Everybody is psychic to a degree. It's called heightened intuition. Right? Now, some people are less psychic than others, or less intuitive than others.
So what you're talking about is like a scientific,
yes,
explainable thing.
I can
this is like
it,
advanced pattern recognition. People.
I can explain. Well, you'll be getting all that Randy bunch onto us now. If somebody comes into a psychic, or to me, for example,
yeah,
and they have certain problems, and they have whatever they might be, and they might sit in a certain way, or they might ask certain questions, okay? Right. And then I forget that they leave, they've paid me, they've gone out of my life, I've completely forgotten about them,
yeah.
Right? A year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, somebody else will come in. The same problem, the same general characteristics of that person. I will have completely forgotten the guy from 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This is a new person, but they're exhibiting the same things, the same body language, the same questions, the same. So I kind of know what's on their mind. I don't know really why I know.
Do you think that's a human thing? That
Yes.
people think that they're like totally unique, whereas they're just not recognizing the similarities in between
So
them?
my hearing's terrible. What did you say?
You think that it's like a human thing that everybody feels that they're unique, but then they're not seeing the similarities in between themselves, their lives, their stories,
That's
their
right.
problems.
It's
and
a similar. Everybody has. It's a similar pattern, and you pick up. Most psychics probably do the same as I do, but they don't know they're doing it. They don't know why. They say, "Well, I'm psychic." My analysis of it is that it's a natural thing, and it comes from. It's not like spirits or it's from doing thousands upon bloody thousands of readings. You do things without thinking, like you do magic without thinking,
Yeah. I think most magicians do magic.
I was
without
about to say
thinking.
that.
It's my psychic intuition.
I was about. I thought, should I say that and insult all the magicians? I was about to, but it took me. And then you went and butted in before.
You know, I was looking at you. I'm like, this is what Mark Lewis is saying, and this is what he's thinking.
You know exactly what I was thinking. I forget what we're talking about again.
I don't know. We got
Magicians.
Magicians are horrible, aren't they?
They're disgusting. They are horrific.
I mean,
I've hated them my entire life.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I get it. What do you think about what's going on with YouTube? I wrote an article recently about what's going on.
I know. I've been reading your art. Nobody's taking a slide, and I am.
And nobody cares. I posted.
I'm irritated. I'm looking at the Genie form.
Oh my God!
They don't care.
The comments.
They don't care.
It's like the level of disconnect.
They're stupid.
They don't realize they're like.
They've banned me for 6 months and Genie.
That's crazy.
But when I'm warning Kaufman, I bear grudges. But
the crazy thing is, you don't know this. I'll explain this for the viewers. So I post this article explaining how AI is ruining magic on YouTube by linking performances with exposés. Whatever, general intelligence, artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever the term is. I posted onto a magic forum. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But that's like a weird thing. They don't realize, or they don't understand that a huge part of magic is that the secrets remain secrets. If everybody knows how magic is done,
what's the point?
It stops being magic. So I remember whenever any magician's done a great performance, the public has drove themselves crazy trying to find out how it's been done. Like, for example, Darren Brown, he did his lottery prediction on national television live. The public, the newspapers were putting out stories, people were putting out theory videos and trying to explain how it's possible, how he could have done it. And there was a real dialogue because people want to know the secret. What is it about magicians that you think they don't understand?
I'll tell you what it is.
That secrets are important.
I'll tell you what it is. The reason they don't care, see, unlike the bar has been set lower for people to enter the magic. So they don't. They've come in easy, and they don't have the background. Okay, when I started magic, it was a bit of an effort. You couldn't really just go to a magic shop. Yeah, you could, but they weren't that. There was no internet. So all the books said, in great books for beginners, were big black letter. Oh, you must never tell how a trick is done. All the books said that. You must keep it. And it was difficult to become a magician because how do you become a magician? You might see a magician and you think, well, how do I investigate this further? And it'll be harder. You might go into the library, get a book. It was tougher to enter. So people took it more seriously. Some drifted away, but they took it more seriously. But now it's so easy to become a magician, and the magicians of today have a very almost contempt for their own art. They trivialize their own art.
They do. It's a
denigration.
Like
it's horrific.
They denigrate it. That's one
very
thing
bad.
That's crazy to me is that
that's why they don't care.
The new generation of magicians that are coming up today
don't call them magicians. Well, inverted commas.
Okay, I'll call them puzzlers.
They're awful.
They don't actually believe in magic. They don't believe that what they're performing should be magical to their audience, and they don't believe that illusion should persist. They look at it as like, okay, I performed a piece of magic to you. There's a secret behind it. It doesn't matter if you find out the secret 1 minute later, 5 minutes later. You can find out the secret because the only thing that matters is that little experience of wonder. That's their framework, which I feel is inherently wrong.
The only protection we have, oddly enough, there is one protection. Most magicians are crap, right? 90% of them are awful, and that actually protects us. I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't really protect the art of magic, trivializes it, but laymen, when they watch a magician, if they watch a bad magician, they don't really care how it's done. They're not going to look him up. They're not going to look up the secret. They're not that interested. But if it's a really good magician, think, oh my God, how's that done? We must find out how it's done. Then they go on YouTube.
Yeah.
I've even had people threaten me. No, layman I'm talking.
In real life, if you don't tell me how it's done, I'm going to go on YouTube?
Yeah. Have you had that?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Gosh,
That only happens to good magicians, by the way.
happens to the bad ones too.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think people, I think, it's weird, but it's a question that shouldn't, it's a line of investigation that shouldn't be open. People shouldn't be able to say, you know what, I'm going to Google it. Hey, I don't like how this show is going. I'm about to pull up my phone and Google this magic trick right now.
I wrote a letter to the CEO
of YouTube, Susan.
Whatever her bloody name or something. She's probably a nice woman. She's a creative, artistic woman. And I've read about her.
Yeah.
She's got 5 children. Kids love magic.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to them, they said, oh, you're wasting your time. And they might be right, because I never heard a bloody word back. But I wrote the letter to, and one of the mail order tricks that you can do, people think, well, how would it get through to the big, important person? If you handwrite the envelope, this is a good tip for mailing. If you handwrite the envelope, it gets to the person.
So that's how like the terrorists do it when they mail anthrax.
Say that again.
The terrorists, like the Unabomber and different people. Because they figure
you're giving people. Maybe have to edit that. You're going to get the Secret Service now coming to you.
Yeah,
I never thought of that.
Well, no, because look, they think if you're just typing it out, it's harder to trace back to you than if you're handwriting it. The FBI has like thousands and thousands of samples of ink. Anyways,
it gets past the gate when you write the envelope.
We're figuring out how to mail something to the CEO of YouTube.
Anyway,
I swear, it's just a letter.
Hasn't done much good. I haven't heard from her. They don't. And people say, now somebody explains to me, well, they're not going to do anything because they make money out of exposures. You understand this better than me. But apparently, YouTube make money out of exposures.
Well,
I don't know why or how.
Not necessarily exposure. They make money from people watching their videos because they sell ad space. So every single time you click a video or watch a video, there will be an ad on the sidebar. There will also be ads before the video, during the video, after the video. They have ways of bringing their advertisements.
We should contact Donald Trump, see if he'll do something about it.
Yeah, I don't know. David Copperfield tried to pass he tried to get magic recognized as an official art in the U.S. For copyright.
Here's one to talk about copyright. David Copperfield. He stole. Being a psychic, I don't do mediumistic work very often, but I've been in touch with Mr. Charles Dickens in the spirit world. Okay. And he was an amateur magician. And he is extremely annoyed that David Copperfield stole the title of one of his books. So it all behooves him to chat.
Well, I think it was in the public domain by then.
I don't care much. Charles Dickens is annoyed about it. The public domain or not.
Do you think, here's the real question, this is crazy to think about. Do you think in 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when people say David Copperfield, they'll think of the novel or they'll think about The Illusionist?
They'll think of the novel.
That's true. I believe
it's lasted a couple of hundred years, show business is they forget, they
people don't realize how transient fame is.
It's unbelievable how
it used to last longer. Now it's like people come up in the world, they have a movie, they have something that they're known for, and then like 2-3 months later they're gone.
I bet people haven't heard of David Nixon in England anymore. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Oh, at least you know who that is.
So, it's crazy. But you have all these people trying to make themselves famous through magic. What do you think is the next big thing in magic? There's been a few people.
Oh, I know the big thing in magic is when it dies because of the internet. But
do you feel sort of lucky in a way that you're going to be dying as magic is dying?
I don't like the way this conversation's going.
Mark, you may be one of the last. We may be some of the last magicians to have ever walked on this earth. Think about that. It's
Can we change the subject? This is becoming a very morbid conversation. I don't want to be in the spirit world myself. Communicating.
Okay. Battery's dead.
All right, the battery's dead. Let's keep this going.
I'm still up.
Pass me the camera, and I'll just switch the battery. Just pass the camera over.
Be careful what you say about psychic stuff.
We keep the exact same position.
Do you know how to switch it from the bottom?
Bad, but otherwise editing wise.
No, it's fine. It's just. There you go. Yeah, sorry, I gotta get new batteries. These are like done. And then maybe switch it on and off.
It came right back on.
Okay, and is it recording or?
No, it's not.
Okay, hit the record.
53%. What the hell kind
I
of
know.
battery charging do you do?
It's horrible.
Okay, is there any way to lower the brightness of the screen?
I'll do it in post. Don't worry about it. It's on auto.
No, I mean on this screen so that it doesn't suck so much battery. Never mind. Okay, so.
All right, Mark. We are back. So we're talking about magicians.
We're back on air again.
Yeah, we're back on air. So magic is in a weird place. What do you think about all this? I mean, it's crazy to me that I can write an article, and I took time writing that article. I did research on what's going on in YouTube, and I thought magicians would be interested. And they're like,
it's very technical. I couldn't understand your article.
Well,
I'm old. Algorithms.
I know. I'm sorry. No, but because it is very complicated. But for some of these people, some of the younger people who are really into technology understand what I'm saying. But
they don't care.
See the intelligence, level of like low intelligence on the conversation to me was like, it was actually shocking. I didn't think magicians are like that ignorant that they're like, oh, you know what? It doesn't matter if everything's exposed.
That's what I have noticed that over the years. In recent years, they don't care. I remember when they'd gone crazy. Oh, the mass magician, they'd be picketing Fox bloody television. They'd be sending letters to the newspapers.
Penn and Teller got banned from the Magic Circle because one of their performance pieces, they exposed. They exposed the cups and balls and a few pieces while performing.
I don't like exposure, but I never got excited about it. I've always thought to myself, well, if they go on television, they expose something. Well, people forget about it a week later. But not this bloody YouTube. The internet is my red line.
To me, that was a crazy thing, though, because, for example, Penn and Teller, they were doing that in context of a performance. I thought it was defensible in a lot of ways what they were trying to do. They weren't just like, doing a masked magician type thing. They had a purpose behind what they were doing. They got banned. Why do you think the Magic Circle and all these organizations are being so silent? You have the IBM.
No, I don't
SAM,
understand. Because they used to make a few years ago, they'd be going crazy. They don't care anymore. I think maybe because
You think their members are just dying off and like the new people?
Maybe that, or maybe the fact that when they complained before didn't really do any. The bang their head against a brick wall.
I think most of the new generation is learning from those sources, so therefore they're not going to complain about where they're learning.
It's crazy. I don't want to name the person, so
make sure I don't.
This is crazy. I'm not going to name the person. Can you believe how loud these people laugh? Like, is the joke really that funny?
I hate it. They should be shot.
Summarily executed.
Definitely, but no, tortured first.
Boiled. No, but what was I saying?
Magic exposure into somebody you're not going to name.
Somebody you're not going to name.
This is crazy. Yeah. So the new generation coming up is so ignorant in many ways. I'm not saying this to knock them. There's a very well-known magic consultant who I heard the story from a very good friend of mine. They were at a collector's house.
Go on, what you saying?
They were at this guy's house, a collector, and the collector was showing off his poster collection. And this guy, who's a magic consultant on TV, this new, young, creative guy with a brilliant mind, he's looking at these magic posters. He's like, "Who's that? Who's that? Who's that?" And he's talking about like Thurston, Keller, Carter the Great, T. Nelson Downs, and I'm like,
You gotta,
they don't know.
They don't know who
they
they
don't
are.
know who these people are. It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, yes, they don't study.
And
It's very superficial knowledge.
I don't think any of the young guys read. I think they literally learn magic.
Well, that's why they're crap.
From other
That's why they're
people
no
who
good.
don't know magic on YouTube.
You cannot learn certain subtleties of psychology and showmanship and presentation by looking on YouTube. You just learn how to be
But
bad.
they're learning from bad performers.
That's right.
Most of these guys who are teaching stuff
The blind leading the blind.
don't know. Some of them have decent technical handlings. They can shuffle a deck of cards. They can hold a deck of
That's
cards.
a very minor part.
But
of the
then,
whole thing.
when you see like their actual performing and what they're doing, they have a very low baseline in magic, and it is quite shocking to me to see like that's for these young kids learning magic, they idolize these guys. These guys are like the pinnacle. They're like the top. They're the greatest things ever. Yeah, they're the stars of. I made a meme that got a lot of flack. The new stars of magic. Did you see that?
No, I gotta see that.
So I took it offline because I was getting a lot of hate on it.
Okay.
But it was so I got the cover of the Stars of Magic book, and you know how the original first edition has the photograph of like Vernon
and all these
Carlisle and all those guys. So I replaced it with all the YouTube magicians, and I put it online. And
you did. It's not a real star.
no, I did it as a joke, but I put it online. The new Stars
And
of
they probably
Magic.
took it seriously.
Well, not only that, they took it seriously. People were angry at me. Oh, you're making fun of these guys. It's like, well, how am I making fun of them? I'm pointing out that they're the new stars of magic. It's not my fault that they're bad.
It's a question of, are you happy with that picture?
It's not my fault that you guys aren't happy with. You want a Stars of Magic cover with a Julius Dean and all these guys coming up doing horrible fake magic on YouTube where. Mark, you won't believe this. They're not even performing magic on video. They're going up to people and telling them to react. Then they're doing a color change that you can see, like them. They're doing techniques from the back. They're doing a color change to the camera. The people behind them who are seeing the exposed view are reacting to it, and it's like, what the heck are we watching?
Well, can't they get reaction without doing that?
No, they can't.
Well, they must be bloody awful then.
You look at these guys perform; they can't even control a card. Like, they'll be doing a card trick, and somebody will they'll spread the deck. Somebody will take a card. Mark, they can't have the card put back in the deck. They can't. They can't do it. Like you cannot put the card back in the deck. They
do no one card
the
from the
trick
other.
won't
They
work.
do clubs, hearts, spades, and diamonds.
If you just put the card, if you were a spectator and you just shoved the card back in the deck, they cannot do the trick. The trick's done. That's the level.
Well, they need to get. There's a book called. This is a good book. I should have mentioned to you. You may not know this book because it was out of print for many years.
Charles Hopkins.
You know everything, don't you? You're bloody psychic. Yeah.
House Precautions and Challenges.
Yes. Oh, you're obviously well read. You've studied it.
I'm a psychic,
You
Mark.
studied it. Well, there you go.
But tell us about the book.
It's a fantastic book. $6.
$6.
And I studied it very thoroughly when I was young.
Sorry, which book?
Sorry?
Which book?
House Precautions and Challenges by Charles Hopkins. I think he was a printer. But when I first started, I was doing magic, and I was getting a lot. I would never perform to others. I'd perform to real people in the street. But not like nowadays where you go up to people. Hello, I would make them come to me. I'd be reading a book like this, and I was too shy to go up to people, so I'd be reading a book and practicing a card trick, make sure people could see me. And sooner or later, some idiot comes along and says, "Well, are you a gambler? Are you from the magic circle?" Then I show him, right?
Do people say that here in North America as well? Are you from the magic circle?
In England, I was doing it, right? I've gotten old people don't do things like that anymore. But when I was young, I was shy. But I got I go in the park in a hotel lobby, and same technique, reading a book. And what I used to do, can I borrow your cards? I don't know. I know you're attached to them. I use my own cards. This is what I'll do. This is what I used to do. This is if there's any shy young magicians who want to show people tricks, laymen, and they don't know how to go about it, this is what you do. You get the. Let me just want to make sure that they're all here. The cards. That's okay. Oh no, sorry. I was looking for the Joker, but you don't need jokers. So I'll go like that. I'll be reading a book. I can't open this properly, so I'll have to pretend.
Here, I can hold it.
That's all right. And I'll be reading the book like this, and I'll make sure to have lots of pictures of cards and stuff. And then I'll be. I might do some. I wouldn't start springing the cards too much and like that. I would sometimes do that, but that'd be too ostentatious. So I would shuffle the cards like this, slowly, as if then suddenly, oh wait a minute, like that. Turn the page, like this, and then turn over. Oh, there's an ace, right? Then I would do it again, shuffle them like that, and I look as if I was having a bit of difficulty learning it,
Yeah.
Then another ace. Then I do it a third time. And sooner or later people will be going, oh, what's this fella doing? What's he doing? And they'll be looking at me, I might do it in a train,
Yeah.
Oh, there's another ace. For the last one, I'd make it look as if it went wrong, you see. I would go like that. Oh. Then I'd look a bit annoyed. Then I'd suddenly go like this. And you see, that would change. And then these shenanigans, so people would come over to me and I'd be doing tricks like I'd get the whole bloody park round me. Or the whole...
What people don't realize is that people actually watch you when you're practicing with cards.
Of course.
If you're shuffling cards and you're producing aces,
yeah,
people are watching.
So they certainly watch, and then they'd come over and they'd make a remark, and then I'd get a bit of a crowd around me, and they'd be doing tricks, and they'd be going, "Hail, Mother of God!" And they'd want to start a new religion and leave me in charge. But then I could go back to the same place again, and I wouldn't have to do that because the same
They
people
know
would
you.
be there.
Yeah, it's great. It's great when you're trying to get a gig or you're trying to, do magic somewhere.
I was just doing it for nothing.
So one of the cool guys that was doing something similar, his name was Pierre Moreau. He was
What's his name?
He was working in France. Pierre Moreau. This is like, I don't know. This is a long time ago. Maybe near 100 years ago.
Right.
Or maybe like in the 20s. I don't know. I have to check the dates. But his name was Pierre Moreau, and he would go to these cafes and these fancy restaurants in the south of France, and he'd just sit at the table, order food, order drinks, and he'd build himself a house of cards.
Oh, you heard about him. Yes.
And so he'd build a house of cards, and at first it was very slow, and then as
Was
it
that Monsieur, maybe I got this wrong, Monsieur Moreau? Is that his name?
Well, his name is Pierre Moreau. He might have been gone. He might have been called Monsieur Moreau. I mean, he was French. I don't know how the French people do it.
I'll contact the spirit world and find out.
Yeah, you'll find out. So he built these houses of cards, and then, he would get that attention that way. Another thing he would do is once the house was built, he'd boomerang cards out. So he'd boomerang a card out. It'd go like, the distance to that wall. He'd catch it. He'd do this like 3-4 times.
Yeah.
The whole restaurant would be watching, and he would pretend to totally ignore them. And then on the next toss, he'd throw it, or the card would, miss and land at somebody's table, near their feet or whatever, and he would, oh, excuse me, and he'd come up, and they were watching, so they'd immediately pick up the card and say, oh, sir, you dropped your card, it's amazing what you do. And as soon as he would get to them, he'd start producing cards from their sleeves, from their ears, from everything, and then he'd go into his close-up set. They'd invite him to their table for dinner, drinks, they'd pay for everything, and then they'd put him up in a hotel, and he'd do magic
Nobody
for the
did
rich
that
family.
for me.
Well, Mark, you need to go to the south of France.
Yeah.
We need to put you up at
Well, I could boomerang cards, but I would sometimes might be out in the open air and the wind would get in the way.
But this was like a hustle that he had. He had no money to eat at these places or to stay in these places. He would go there. He just had one nice pair of clothes, and he would just go there, sit down. He looked respectable. They would let him order food or drink, and he couldn't leave. He didn't have money to pay the bill. He literally had to meet somebody and do magic in order to survive. There's been a couple guys like that. I think Carlisle did similar stuff.
Well, so far you're talking more than I am.
Sorry.
Who's the interview supposed to be about? Or is it just go on, what were you saying?
Who is the most? Have you had an obnoxious?
Oh, yes.
I think that's a good topic to get on. Have you had obnoxious spectators? Tell us
All the
about
time. Yeah. And in London. Now you're talking close up, or you're talking on the stage? They're different situations.
Tell us about some of your most memorable ones, because there's some.
I can tell you, man. In my book, I think you probably saw it.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's a few. Blue Angel nightclub in London, full of drunks every bloody night. I worked the London nightclubs, and I was a beginner.
People don't understand how people drink in the UK. Describe to us how people
Non-stop.
the drinking culture. It is non-stop.
It's non-stop. That's all they do.
Mark, when I went to
And they can't hold their
Scotland,
drink. In Ireland, I lived in Ireland, and the Irish do drink like fish, more than the British actually. But they don't get drunk. They don't. They don't. They might sway slightly, but they don't really get. They don't really get drunk. But the British become drunk or not. I lived in Blackpool. All the drunks and spewing in the streets. Oh God! And then when you're performing, I came to Canada. I thought, I couldn't believe it. Everybody's so polite, and they're all watching, all nice, and giving standing ovations to crappy acts. I thought, what the hell is this? They go back to England, they've got their backs turned to you, they don't want to watch you. What's this bloody hell? This fella doing the... Yeah, you're not as good as Paul Daniels, mate, you know. But when the booze, I worked, and they were... This was late at night when they had time to drink, you know, at 1 o'clock in the morning. They've had I do 2 shows a night, one at 10 o'clock in the evening, one at 1 o'clock. 10 o'clock was okay, they hadn't got drunk enough yet.
Yeah.
Right? But then at 1 o'clock, they've got some idiot doing card tricks on the stage, and they're boozing, they've got the backs to you, they're heckling. I didn't mind the heckling. The heckling I could handle. What was worse was when they were the buzz around the room where they weren't interested. That was worse. Heckling is a little bit of interaction, you know, you can answer them back. But when you've got a buzz around the room, they're ignoring you and everybody's talking, then you know you're dying a death.
Yeah,
you know?
the interplay with drunk people can add to the show. If at some points, if they're not too drunk and it's the right situation.
If there's only one. But what happens if the entire audience is drunk?
No, it's weird. But sometimes, so when I did Penn and Teller's Fool Us, I got invited back to perform, and so when I went back to Vegas, it was October 2016, something like that, and I went there to perform after their show. And I get on stage and I'm performing. Yeah. There was one guy, he was in this side of the audience, and I remember this clearly because he must have been seated near where I was sitting when I was watching the show. He was totally drunk. He was yelling as loud as he could. So loud that like I was distracted. Like he's halfway across the theater, and he's yelling so loud I can't pay attention to what I'm doing. So I and the audience can all hear this as well. So I just, I acknowledge him. I said, "Sir, I can't hear what you're yelling, but if you'd like to talk after the show, we can talk. But I'm gonna continue for now if that's okay." But I do appreciate the commentary, but I honestly can't understand what you're saying. And then he shut up. But it was like a weird thing where he was just yelling and screaming, and that's something that you don't see here often in North America.
Well, in London in those days, it was every night, and these clubs were horrific. They'd be...
They do...
I'll tell you about the Blue Angel. Anyway, I'll tell you the Blue Angel. They were really drunk there every night, and I was a rookie. A magician. I don't know what the hell he's supposed to do. And one of the hostesses told me, in the London nightclub they have what called hostesses. They were really kind of prostitutes, but that's another story, isn't it? But their job is
when are they not, Mark?
The idea was the clubs would pay them to get help. It's a long story. Nightclub hostesses in London. So one of them said to me, "Look," she says, why can't you be like the other magicians? When you get these drunks up on the stage, send them back into the audience."
Yeah.
So I thought, that's a good idea. I must remember that for next time. She didn't tell me what to do, because if they're all drunk, you can't get anybody else up. But I thought, well, maybe she's right. Maybe I'll just send them back.
Yeah.
I was a beginner. So when I get to this Blue Angel Club and everybody's drunk, they're all I still remember to this day. You heard of Graham Jolly? Mentalist. Graham Jones, a well-known British mentalist. Still
Yeah,
around.
the name sounds familiar. I don't know.
Yeah, he's
I
a
don't
well-known
know
British
much about
mentalist.
it.
And I saw him working there, and he was being heckled. He had one heckle called Oliver. My name's Oliver. kept shouting. So I remember that to this day. But he was doing. He did better than me, than Graham. Because when I went along, the whole bloody audience was drunk.
They made a movie about some of those guys who ran. You talk about them. There's like a pair of twins. The gangsters.
The less I say about the Crane.
Are they alive now, or are they in jail?
They're dead, but they've got plenty of associates still around, and I might mention it. But anyway, I'll come back to the Cray twins later. They'd only. They were managed. They managed Doris Stokes, a famous psychic.
Yeah.
They managed her from jail.
Wow.
But that's another story. What was it talking? The Blue Angel.
Yeah, Blue Angel.
The Blue Angel. I said, I thought I'm not going to get anybody up from the audience. They're all too drunk. I thought, right? I thought, I can still get them to take cards. I said, because you take a card, you go up to people, right? So they're all shouting out, Stooge, Stooge, he's a Confederate. I said the fatal words. I said, anybody can come up here. They're not Stooges. Anybody can come up and help me. So this fella, I still remember he had a dinner jacket or like a tuxedo on. He said, I'll help you, mate, I'll help you. So he jumps up on the stage with me, right? And I say, take a card, right? So he's very helpful. Not only does he take a card, he takes three. He throws two of them up in the air. The last one he tears in half, and then he throws it away. So it dawns on me he might not be a good assistant, a good volunteer to have on stage. I said, thank you very much. I think you better go back to your seat. No, he says, and he whispers. He said, no, I'm only messing. He said, I'll just behave myself. I'll behave myself. I promise, right? So his idea of behaving himself is to grab my table, what magician's table. You know the long tripod, like a drumstick thing.
Yeah.
Holds it high above his head, and it's like a big, and he's dancing around the stage with it, right?
Unreal, man.
So, I haven't finished yet, right? So he puts it down. So I think I'd read in some book somewhere the show must go on, right? So I thought I'll carry on, right? And he won't leave. I can't get him to go back, and I'm stuck with this silly bastard. So the waiters take pity on me. Right? And the waiters come up and they say, can you come off, sir? But don't forget, they can't be too rough with him. He's spending a fortune in there, right? With the price of drinks. So he won't. So the waiters give up and they say, well, he's not coming off. So they put the lights out. But I heard this thing, show must go on. I thought, I might not get paid if I don't finish the act.
Yeah,
So let me just finish. So they put the lights on again, okay? And then a woman in the audience decides to rescue me. She says, don't worry, mate, I'll get him off the stage for you. And she jumps up on stage, and I've got two drunks on stage. So they're all dancing around with each other, and the audience is shouting, get off, get off. To this day, I don't know whether they were shouting, get off to them, or get off to me. But that's what I had to put up with. I
think it was a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
But now I kind of learned how to. I will tell you what you do if you're on stage and you get a real drunk.
Okay.
Somebody who's really, really bad. Well, I mean, first of all, if you have more sense than me, you look around the audience, you see who looks sober. Very rare. I have this anymore. You get somebody. This guy's sober. You get him up on the stage. Okay. In the London, everybody was drunk, so I didn't have much choice. But then I went to Germany, or in America. I managed to scam an agent that was good. It's a long story. It's in the book. And he sent me I went to Germany, and Jerry Bergman, who was a famous old professional magician, did the golf balls from his mouth. It was very good. And he said, well, what you do, if you get somebody drunk on the stage, you say, take a card to the person. And you say, hoping he doesn't tear it up, and you say, well, even if he does tear it up, so you can still do it. You can say, go back to your seat and sit on the card.
Yeah.
And he says, and just leave him there. And from time to time, he'll shout out, what about my card? And you say, I'll find it later.
Yeah, no, I feel like when you have a rough spectator, you need to handle it properly. I saw a thing recently. There's a famous podcast with Joe Rogan, who is a
he's a heckler.
TV host.
He's a very. I've watched him. Yeah.
He did a podcast with Banachek.
Yeah.
And so Banachek is, performing some magic for him. He's bending spoons. He's doing a drawing duplication, mind reading. Maybe not drawing duplication.
Joe Rogan was heckling him, wasn't he?
Joe Rogan was on him. Like, he did a prediction effect, and he's like,
I know.
you know, what you just wrote here, it looks like you just wrote it underneath the table. And then Banachek's like, well, how did it end up in the wallet? I don't know. You must have just shoved it in while we were talking.
They've met before, though, right?
Well, there's ways
Yeah,
to
they
handle
met
it.
before, but like it was just brutal. And like Joe Rogan is a type of person who's just like really rough. And I feel like when you have certain spectators, you kind of have to manage it in
There
certain
are ways
that.
of dealing with those things. There are ways of dealing with those things. If you're going on a program, television, for example, you check out the host first of all.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I better be careful with David Letterman. He's
Look
gonna
at
be,
what happened to what's his name, David Williamson.
the kid, Murray.
Yeah.
that's
David
it.
Williamson. Like David Williamson was able to recover and laugh it off, but
Yeah.
man, what a rough situation.
Yeah.
On TV, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, there's things you can do. There are
But
things
in
you
the
can do.
moment, like you're caught like a deer in headlights.
If you've been doing it for years and years and years, and you've experienced hecklers and all the time. If you're working close up impromptu, for example, all right? If somebody's heckling you, you do not do what Darwin Ortiz advised. He wrote a wonderful book. Strong Magic.
Darwin Ortiz in real life, I've seen him lecture, I've seen him perform. If he screws up, he'll stop the whole performance, go back 5-10 minutes, and redo the whole thing.
Well,
Very bizarre. That is not how you're supposed to do it.
No,
It was weird, man.
that does not take away from his book. That's
No.
That's why books are better than videos. You watch these people and you think, oh God, I'll never, and you ignore the video. But when it's written in a book, you don't know how good or how bad they are, and the wisdom is there. But he's only got one thing I disagree with: his advice on hecklers. He says you ignore them, and as a last resort, you don't look at them, you let them heckle you, you ignore them, and then as a last resort, you say, this is what happens when cousins marry.
No.
You don't do that. That's crap.
I would not do that. That's
No.
you'll get knocked out.
This is what you do. It's an individual thing. You are in an ideal position of doing it, of handling hecklers, because you're a bit ochanebish, you're a bit I can't explain. You got no arms. You're unique. You're distinct. You're quiet. So you can handle it. So they won't heckle you quite so much. But they can underestimate you, and when they you want to get a heckler to underestimate you. And what I used to do before I became loud and obnoxious, when I was young, see, I've changed now my personality over the years. As the years go by, you change. Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, here we are, pack of cards. So I'd act humble. I didn't know what I was doing, and they thought, well, this fella doesn't really know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'd be a bit amateur. It wouldn't be quite so slick. And then I'd do a sucker trick on them. And you pick the heckler, and you do some kind of sucker trick. There's plenty of them. 3.5 of clubs, or designed for laughter. There's a whole bunch of them. I would do that, but innocently, and you think, and because he'd underestimated me, he'd be, look at that. Oh. And then everybody would laugh at the heckler.
Yeah.
If you're being heckled, you do a sucker trick as a last resort, and that shuts them up. And there's ways of getting around that. It's hard to explain. It's an individual thing. You don't ignore them because they persist, and you don't use heckler stoppers. Maybe on stage you do, but not close up.
I want to get back to what was going on in London. So
What was going on?
So the nightclub scene is much different today, and I've had opportunities to perform that I've turned down, just because some of the people that wanted me to perform in certain places, or just wanted to get close to me when I was performing in certain places, had criminal affiliations. Like I've had. I don't even want to. Yes, can I have another round? Thank you. I've had people, bragging about certain criminal things that they've been involved in, and bragging that like, oh yeah, we're under surveillance by this and this, and I'm like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be under surveillance right now. I don't want to be associated with you guys. So like, I stayed out of that scene because I'm not, I don't want to be associated with low-level criminals.
Yeah.
If you're under surveillance, you're low-level.
Murray the escapologist once gave me some advice. He had Murray, the famous escape artist. He once said to me, if you go through life and never do business with a crook, you'll never get anything done.
Yeah, well, it's true and not true. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't want to be associated with
most people you do
somebody.
business with are a bit crooked, so...
Well, it's fine if they're crooked as long as, there's... It's not like mafia crooked, There's different levels of crooked.
I couldn't avoid, when I worked for London nightclubs, I couldn't avoid those
Well, that's
people.
how Vegas used to be.
Yeah.
You hear guys like Lance Burton talk and Penn and Teller talk, and Penn and Teller actually missed a lot of that stuff, but David Copperfield was definitely...
The trouble was that those guys owned the clubs in Vegas. The mafia owned a lot of the properties. In London, there was only the Cray twins that owned one or two nightclubs. I only worked one place where actually the Crays didn't. No, actually, the Crays did not own the Regency Club. I worked at the Regency Club. They were just being. The owners were just paying them protection money.
Yeah.
But they'd be in there every night, and I was trying to do card tricks there. But Jesus Christ. I still want to. Well, that was horrific. The guy, and they used to laugh at me in the pub when I go around the pubs. It's a horrible story. You read it in the book.
So one thing that I remember from the times that I performed in London, I remember the first time that I was really working there. Yeah.
Stop recording.
Press record again. It sometimes shuts down. No worries about it.
I don't know when that did.
It's okay.
Did.
It's okay. Yeah, sometimes the recording shuts down. It's not a big deal. Because this is recording everything.
Oh, I see.
So don't worry about it. Anyways, so one of the things that I learned when I was performing in the UK was the drinking culture that you guys had. So the first convention I ever worked there was the Ron's Day, the International Magic Day, Ron McMillan.
Well, yeah. Well, Ron used to be a big drinker himself.
So I worked that back in, I want to say 2013 maybe? It was a while ago. Anyways, we had this close-up magic thing at a bar.
Right.
So it was me, John Armstrong, Danny Dortiz, Christian Englum, and Miguel Angelgea, and we each had a section of this big bar. And I had like a little table, sort of like the couch back there where we did the interview before. And I was performing magic. We had 15-minute sets, and we just had to rotate the audience all night. It was sort of like a magic castle thing.
Sometimes they're too close to each other. The noise from the applause from one.
Well, what was crazy is, so I had my close-up pad, and in between shows, because I never stopped performing. I was always talking to people, engaging people. People were buying me drinks. So, and this is the same thing happened in the Magic Castle. My table, and the table was about the size of this. My table, I'm not joking, had enough room for my close-up pad, and the rest of the table was filled with drinks.
Booze, yeah.
There must have been like 50 drinks on the table. I'm not over-exaggerating. And throughout the night, I drank, I drank as much as I could, but there was no way that I could drink all the drinks that people were providing for me.
Well, I hardly drink. I never. And that's what I didn't like in England. I didn't like the pub culture. I don't like.
You're
drink.
originally from Ireland.
What?
You're Irish?
No.
Scottish.
I'm Scottish.
Where in Scotland?
Glasgow.
Glasgow. Who do you know that might still be around there today?
I left when I was 12, so I don't bloody know.
When's the last time you were in the UK? Mark, I've been to the UK. People remember you, so you must remember some people.
Oh, they know me, do they? Yes.
I've heard stories, but
yes. Yeah, but what name do they know me as? Ronnie McLeod?
They know Ron McLeod. They know Mr. Devereaux.
Mr. what? Say again.
Mr. Devereaux.
Devereaux?
Devereaux.
Devereaux.
I don't know what you're talking about. Devereaux.
Yeah, I don't know.
What does that mean?
I have no idea.
I've never heard that.
Supposedly you.
Devereaux. Say, spell it.
D-E-V, Devereaux, D-E-V-E-R-E-A-U-X.
I have no idea. Somebody, I think that was mentioned in some book or other by Fred Robinson. Said Ronnie McLeod who had more names than holes in a perforated tea bag. It said.
But they definitely know Ron McLeod.
Yes,
I've heard stories about Ron McLeod.
that's me.
When was the last time you've been to the UK?
When I did coincidentally, when I went to I did a lecture. I did a
Oh, yeah.
International Magic.
Yeah, you did a
seminar.
a video lecture.
I did a psychic seminar for International Magic.
And how did you find it being back after, you know?
The food was good. Food was hell of a lot better than here.
I know.
They complained about British
That's-
food.
you
The
know-
food had improved incredibly. It was really good.
That's one of the crazy things. So I was working in London, and I went to a few restaurants, but my favorite place by far, there was a pub that, you know, had no signs. It was like a little joint on a corner somewhere. The food was incredible, huge portions, great food, great everything. It was packed, and you know.
Well, my brother told me that the food has improved since, from before, over the years. It's got better now.
It has. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it was before, but it's definitely, you know, it's one of my favorite places to eat.
Yeah, London's good for food. But
London's good for a lot of things. London is very expensive, though.
extremely expensive.
My
But
God.
I hated London in the end. I had to get out there. I went to Blackpool. Blackpool was my favourite place.
Really?
You ever been there?
No, I've never been. I
Oh,
want to
Black-
go.
Blackpool.
But I don't want to go, you know, they have this convention every year, the
Yeah.
Blackpool convention. I don't want to go then. I want to go and see the real Blackpool.
The real Blackpool.
Without all the magicians.
Oh, you don't want to see the real Black. The real Black.
I want to see the real
Well,
thing.
you've been to Vegas. You've seen the real Vegas.
I don't know if I've seen the real Vegas. I've always been with friends, and they've always taken me during the daytime. I've never really been on the strip at night. I've never seen like the chaotic.
Blackpool is the opposite of Vegas. Vegas, very fairly high class people in Vegas. I saw, you've got the dregs of the earth. Blackpool is wonderful. It's the dregs of the earth. The British working classes, the ones that all voted for Brexit.
Well, Paul Wilson, I don't know if you know Paul Wilson. You met him here in Toronto. So Paul Wilson told me he used to work at a bouncer. As a bouncer in, maybe it was in Glasgow. Or I don't know, maybe it might have been somewhere in England. I'm not too sure. But he was telling me the story. When he was young, he was a big guy, so he'd work as a bouncer. And he said, when you have the sort of the working class people who work hard labor all day, and for the week on the weekend, they're drinking, and like they'll drink the pub dry. And he told me stories about like the people in the town drinking all the alcohol in the pub throwing everyone out, locking the doors, barring the windows, and people breaking, literally busting through the windows and the doors to try to get some more alcohol.
Blackpool was but although the audiences were different up north, when you went up north to perform, there was something fair about it. In England, in London, as I mentioned, in London, everybody was drunk. You couldn't really work properly. It was horrible. But when you went to Manchester, Blackpool, up north, there were famous working men's clubs, which were tough. But they gave you 1 minute. They gave you 1 minute before you died a death. They sit watching.
And what do you think that is that they gave you a minute? Just because
it's very
of
nice.
curiosity, or
No. They get in London. They were too drunk from the beginning. You go on stage and they'd be all rowdy before you open your mouth. And up north they were fair. They sit maybe with their arms foot. Hey, we'll see if this fella's rubbish or not. Let's have a look. And they give you a minute. And then, if you were crap, after a minute, which I usually was, after a minute, hey, this fella's a load of bloody rubbish. He's not as good as Paul Daniels. And then they go talking, and then you die a death, and they take no note. You might get heckled, but heckling was not as vicious as London. But it was more, they'd ignore you. But they give you a minute. So you had to get them. You had 1 minute of silence. You'd be quiet for a minute. No, it's wonderful. When you got a whole minute, to impress them, that's plenty of time. So you've got to get them in the first minute. I don't believe in all this twaddle that I read on the internet and stupid magicians, usually mentalists, by the way. You come on stage, you get to know the people, you chatter with them, blah, 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 get to know the people, and rapport. No, and then it takes them 5 minutes before they get to the first bleeding trick. That's terrible. You've got to start with doing the trick within 30 seconds of coming on. You get straight away. You can't be messing about letting people get to know you. You got to get on with it. Otherwise people like me get bored. They're still being recorded.
Yeah, we're.
Oh, it's okay.
We're still on.
Yeah. So anyway, that's.
Yeah, no, it's a weird thing. The attitude people have towards performing today. They like, I believe that most audiences should be handled pretty roughly in the first few moments. You need to sort of establish yourself. So, Rene Levin and a few other guys had this concept where they called it a credential trick. The audience doesn't know who the heck you are.
Right.
You come out in front of them. They don't know if you're good. They don't know if you're bad. They don't know anything about you. In most circumstances, unless you're like David Copperfield or something like that. For us regular magicians, we come out, nobody knows anything about us, and
you've got to be very careful of the person that introduces you. You can get very bad introductions.
Horrible.
And that can kill you.
But regardless, you have, 2 minutes to set the bar, set expectations, get everybody's attention, get everybody's interest, show them something good.
Yeah.
And then go from there. And it's something that I feel magicians today don't know about. I've seen guys, many magicians, it's horrible. I've seen magicians start, I personally believe that when you start a set, the magic should happen in under 60 seconds.
Correct.
Get straight to it and boom, first effects out of the way, 2-3 effects, boom, 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 quick. Get their attention. Let them know that you're good. But I've seen magicians these days, watch out that corner doesn't fall off the table. All right. I've seen magicians these days start a performance with a trick that takes 10 minutes to get to the climax, to get a single effect. I've seen guys open the show.
They have to be very good entertainers to be able to do that.
No, they're not good entertainers. They're literally, the setup for the effect takes 10 minutes.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Your opening trick should be. Certain places you don't want it to be too quick. If it's a slightly rowdy, inattentive audience, and you do something which is over in 10 seconds, they've missed it. So something takes a little bit longer. I find 6-card repeat a very good opener because it quietens the audience down.
One Tamariz uses that to open.
The 6-card repeat.
The 6-card repeat.
It's a very good opener because it's the counting. It slows. Everybody's. It's sort of repetitive. If they don't see you count to 6 the first time, they'll hear it the second time. Then you say it again. Counting quiet. I don't know why, but when you count, it gets attention. People go quiet when you count, and it's something I've noticed. So, and sympathetic silks, I open with that sometimes. And that's a counting trick. You've got to go 1, 2, 3. Got to count the handkerchiefs.
You also do cards across.
Yes, I've been doing. That's the only thing I've been doing. That's the only thing which has lasted. Even over the years, I've been dying a death. I've done that all my life. That 3 cards across.
That's a great trick
for the state, and I did it when I was working for the drunks as well. Even
really?
In London. It's the only trick that survived in my act all those years, for 50 years or whatever it is.
And do you do more than one version, or you just do?
I have two. Nowadays, I have 2 versions. I have one. I call it the Holy Hairlock version. I can't. But there's one I do where you get one person up from the audience, and that's the one I've been doing all my life.
Yeah.
But the other one, which has come in the last, 15 years, the more recent one is you get 2 people up. And it's John Tremaine. I don't know if you know who that is.
John Tremaine?
He's a mind reader. He's written some very good books for. He was quite a mentalist, a children's entertainer, very professional, very good entertainer in his day, but he's old now. So he's written a lot of books, and one book on for children, for beginners, a book on cards. I think it's called The Amazing Book of Cards or something like that. There's a terrific version in there where you get two people up, one on that side, one on that side, and you tie a hair and you join the hair together, and the cards go up across the hair and down the. You've never seen me do that, I don't think. It's a holy hair lock trick. It's a very.
No, I've never seen that version.
But I do that, and if I want to make people laugh, that's the version I use. The other one's a more serious version, a more amazing version. But the comedy's important. You've got to make people laugh when you're on the stage. Really, in some ways it's more important than the magic. I never used to believe that. Ken Brooke used to say that you make them laugh, and then J. Mark, they'd always. If you're talking, you've got to make them laugh.
One guy that was really funny and who was a fantastic magician was Max Malini. He apparently had the audience in stitches like the whole time. He would just be telling jokes and doing the magic, but he was almost like a comedian in a way, in just how he would talk.
Yeah. I knew somebody that knew Max Malini. I knew Murray knew Max Malini. I met somebody who knew Houdini too.
Yeah.
Tell me stories. John Holland. You heard of him?
He's the CIA guy.
Yeah, CIA guy. So he came to the Magic Circle once.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of young magicians performing. I was one of them, right, on the stage. And then there was a young guy. After he was old at that time, and he stood, and he was complaining about Houdini. He said that Houdini, he says, he was mishandling the funds of the SAM, the Society of American Magicians. I was the only one that spoke up about it, he said. I was the only one that spoke up about it. He was annoyed that Houdini was fiddling the books or something. And
Houdini made a lot of money in his lifetime.
He didn't leave much in the end.
Well, he lost a lot of money. I know that he lost a lot of money on his film company.
Yeah, I know, his movie company. Most magicians end up with not much money, but you know who ended up with a lot of money? Tommy Cooper. Well, I've had different ideas. I don't know about him, but £1 million Tommy Cooper left in his will.
Was he married?
Oh yeah, married. Oh yeah, to a lady called Gwen, who I met actually.
Tommy Cooper, what a sad story. I like Tommy Cooper.
He was, to me, he was the best comedy magician of all time.
He was great.
Very, very funny. He was drunk a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah, he had a lot of problems, but gosh, what a guy. What a funny guy.
He was really funny. I met him a couple of, well, I won't say I met him, I was in his presence about 3 or 4 times.
What do you think about Uri Geller?
What do I think about him? A good Jewish boy. What do I think about him? A good showman, terrific showman, and the first I heard about him, I had a guy working for me. He said, Ronnie, have you seen that fella on the TV the other night? I said, well, he said, he's a magician. I said, oh, he's a magician. No, he says, he's not a magician. He says, he bends spoons with his mind. I said, what a load of bollocks. I said, no, he does it with his mind. It's not a trick. I said, Tom, I have to ask you something then. He's so convinced. I said, no, he says, a genuine, real psychic, and he can bend with it's been proven, he can bend spoons with his mind, isn't it? I said, well, let me ask you something.
It's been proven by the CIA.
I'd never seen him, so I didn't see him at that point. I said, well, tell me something. Was he very slick in his patter and his talk, right? He said, oh yeah, he was terrific with the pattern. I think he's a fake then, right? Because if you can really do that, you can, hey, bloody hell, you don't speak properly. You're a normal human being. You don't talk slick and professional. If you've got this real power, you're like, bloody hell, look at this, I've been doing this since I was a kid. So then I got to see him. He's a terrific showman, and all the magicians got all excited. I know how it's done. I know how it's done. You know, and trying to expose them. You can't do that nowadays with the bloody internet. It'll be,
Do you think Mark? Do you think Uri Geller could have done what he did today with the internet, or do you think
it'd be very difficult? I can tell you that with all all these video tubes.
Yeah, but hold on.
So long.
But there are people like
they make fun of them now.
Hold on, but there are people, mediums and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Sylvia Brown and all those people. I mean, I think she's dead now, but there's new ones. I don't even know their names. There's new ones that have
you're
popped
talking
up.
about spiritualist mediums.
Well, people who claim to have supernatural.
Yeah, but
connections.
are you talking about bending spoons?
Not specifically bending
that's
spoons.
right.
I mean, I'm talking about people who claim they have supernatural powers.
Mediums.
Well, what do you mean? Well, I know.
Well,
I know lots of
they're doing stuff that.
I know lots of mediums. I know personally people that do that.
Who speak to the dead.
What?
Who speak to the dead.
Well, they speak to me, and I'm half dead.
No, to the real dead, the deceased, buried,
I don't
cremated,
know.
drowned.
All I can tell you is they're very sincere, and they appear to mean what they. I don't listen to them. None of my business. I don't listen to their readings. I don't say, well, you know, it's not for me to. I don't like the television ones.
Yeah,
the ones on television are a bunch of crooks.
I mean, there's a lot of tricks that some of these people use. Also, the faith healers use in order to get information from people and then regurgitate it. You know what I'm talking about, Mark? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
No, I know some. I'm thinking of some, but it's all right. It's okay.
But I don't want to.
There's somebody I know who.
How do you feel about that?
About what? I don't know. I'm not. You asked me about my psychic colleagues.
Sorry.
These are my colleagues. These are the people I work with. You're asking. You're trying to get me.
Is Uri Geller a psychic colleague?
No, he's a terrific entertainer. He's a showman.
Who else is doing entertainer?
But he's as bent as a spoons are.
Who else is doing entertainment in that field in that way that you would feel comfortable talking about?
You're talking about men. I'm not going to talk about the psychic business, right?
Okay.
The psychic business is. I'm in it. I've got clients.
I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you who's doing stuff that you can look at and you can say, this is Uri Geller like.
I don't see anybody Uri Geller like.
Was he unique?
I have not seen a single psychic at the fair saying, "Can I borrow your spoon and start bending it?" You know.
Do you have a spoon on you, Mark?
I don't. The only trick I know, the only spoon bending I know is this one I read, and I can't do it. You're supposed to get a coin. This is Jim. You're supposed to do this thing. I've always done it very badly, so which I'll probably do it even worse now. So, I mean, you got the illusion of doing it like that, and it's well, I'm exposing on YouTube now myself. But who cares? I'm too dead to care. So you got a coin, right, and you go like this, and you're supposed to go, and it sticks out like that. You see. So
what a horrible illusion, Mark.
That's terrible.
I said I'm not very good at it.
That's true. No, good. That's perfectly fine to expose, quite honestly. That's terrible. Yes.
Well, that's because I'm doing it badly. If you practice it, I suggest you practice. I do it better than you. How about that? Now look, you go like that. And
Mark, you have what it takes to become a YouTube magician.
Maybe I'll try it. I'll try it. Well, there's a lot of money in it. My ethics can change very quickly if I find there's a lot of money in it.
There might be good money in it.
If there's good money in it, maybe that's what you should do. Maybe you should join the other side, Marty.
I don't know what I'm fighting for.
What's that?
I think I'm totally wasting my time. Honestly, I'm looking at I'm looking at the feedback from people, and I'm like, these people are gone. Like, you know, they say that magic is dead. I think it's dead. I don't think magic's gonna exist in 20 years. I think what they're going to call magic in 20 years is going to be such a perverted version of magic.
It'll probably survive in some way or other.
No, but it's such a low form of entertainment. It's not going to.
It's always been a low form of entertainment.
What I honestly think there's going to be is going to be a breakaway movement of magicians who go on to developing stuff, and it's only going to be word of mouth. No one's going to know how it's going to work, and they're going to completely fool everyone. And
the magic for magicians I've always been.
Who's going to publish stuff knowing that people are just going to read? Mark, who is gonna come up with what serious person?
I don't think any people should be allowed to be magicians unless they have a certain standard.
Mark, who's gonna publish? We have books and stuff within the magic world. Yeah. Who's gonna publish stuff or teach stuff, lecture on it, if they know that some person out there is just gonna make a little YouTube video exposing how it works? Who's gonna do it? I won't.
This is your problem. I'll be dead in a few years, and I might be dead in a few minutes. But the way I feel. But for you, it's a problem for the future. It's not my problem anymore.
I'll be retired by then. I figure I have 15, 20 years. I'm out. I'm in it for now.
I thought you were going to do kids shows. That's what he told me. He had this idea. I'm going to do kids shows.
I want to. I need a
kids would love you.
Yeah, I need a manager.
Kids shows?
You don't need a manager to do bloody kids shows. You push.
Yeah, I don't know how to book it, and I don't know. How
you do it on the internet.
I don't know. Look, I mean, I've never done. I've done kid shows, but they were always set up for me. I've never advertised myself.
Kids shows are easier to get than adult shows.
What age group?
I will do, as long as they're outside of the womb, you know what, if they're in the womb, I will perform for them.
Your main
children, huh?
Your main market will be, I suppose, 4 to 8 years old.
I think I can do that. I've done shows for like 6 years old.
Well, that's fine. So do it. There's no technical.
What do? I just set up a website.
I tell you what, I'm old. I can only tell you what used to be the way it was done in the old days. It's not done like that now. Otherwise, I'd be doing kids shows. But in the old days, it was very easy. You stick an ad in the local paper, and an ad in the yellow pages. That's it. You're in business. And, you're in business, and then you give away some kind of. You give away some giveaway with your name. How do
you think most magicians are getting their gigs? Like the local guys who are getting like gigs within.
Don't forget, there's a lot of bragging going on.
There is, but how do you think they're really getting their shows? Do you think they're just like?
No, miracle.
Without naming.
I won't name anybody, but they're all atrocious. Right? I've not seen a good. The standard of magic in Toronto is atrocious, especially the young magic. They're awful. They're awful.
Because they're learning from YouTube, that's why.
I don't think they all are. But the standard, yeah, they're probably right. I think some of them read books, but the trouble is they're not getting, there's a mutual admiration society. They're all, let's support each other. Let's support each other. But it's the blind leading the blind. You see, I lived in London where there were some very savage critics around. There was Ali Bongo, there was Patrick Page, and people who were very experienced people. And unpleasant people, I didn't like them. But they would criticize, you know. And but here nobody criticizes, nobody would say I see them, they go on stage, they're swearing on stage, profanity on stage.
The only time I swore on stage, are we still recording? Is this good?
Yeah.
If it's an accident.
The only time I swore...
The battery icon is showing, so it's going to cut out shortly. But.
The only time I ever swore on stage was when I was with you.
With me?
Yeah.
Was it something to do? Explain, you better explain this. Were you on stage and swearing when I was in the audience?
No, you were, we had that open mic show here in Toronto.
Right.
And then after you performed, I was emceeing, I came on stage and I just swore. I don't know, I mean,
That was an accident.
It was an accident.
Well, you should go to hell, but an accident's one
But it was not
thing.
like in the script. I was just so shocked at something that I let out a curse word.
Yeah, fine. Okay, but that was an accident. Even Kreskin sworn on stage by accident.
You think Copperfield has ever sworn on stage?
Under his breath, for sure.
Maybe by accident. But
do you think Copperfield is there when he's performing, or he's just like fully robot?
Well, I haven't seen him perform really. He's doing all these shows.
He's doing like 500 shows a year.
You get robotic after a while.
Like when you do a lot of shows. Like, dude, when I was doing the Magic Castle, you're doing 8 shows a night.
Yeah.
You're in robot mode. Like,
absolutely.
You're trying to be engaged, but you're just like, boom, boom, boom. You're just doing it too many times.
Rails.
Yeah, but if you concentrate on the audience, you're not going to become robotic. That's why hecklers are good for you. It keeps you on your toes. You don't follow, you don't blah blah blah. People are interrupting. It's not such a bad. But swearing on the stage deliberately, like someone do, they tell me, well, oh, there's places you can do that, and it's terrible.
You know, the worst thing I ever heard is it will make my show more edgy.
Stupid idiots. They should jump off the edge of a cliff.
That's unnecessary.
I don't know. So basically, the producing. That's why the standard is. I don't see good magicians, good acts very often. There was always, even in London, there was a lot of crap going on, but there's some good people. Amongst the crappy magicians, there's always been crap magicians. Always.
In every sort of field, there will always be a percentage that is crap.
Magic seems to be more crap because it's easy to learn quickly.
Magic is like a ghetto. Like magic attracts some of the biggest losers in the world.
I know.
I don't know why.
The biggest losers.
No, magic is like, dude, magic is bad. Magic has like some of the worst people living alive.
If you can do a double,
like,
boom, you're golden.
Some of these people, like, I don't know. It's a horrible community. I try to stay out of many things, but
you're very popular.
I'm not. A lot of the magicians don't like me because I talk about stuff like exposure. I talk about the YouTube stuff.
You'll be the modern Mark
He's
Lewis.
abrasive.
I am incredibly.
I won't mention names. I will not mention names. But somebody once said to me about Marty. I said, "Where does Marty live?" I still don't know where you live. I thought you were living in New York. I said,
That's good. It's a mystery.
I
"I don't know where you live. I don't know where you live. I think you live in Toronto. I'm not sure."
This cut out. Is this over?
It's up. Battery exhausted. Yes.
All right, we'll keep recording. We'll finish this up, but don't worry. Let's keep going.
Do I keep talking?
Yeah.
I keep
We're
talking.
recording.
One magician, whose name I will not mention to you, said to me, I said, "Well, where does Marty live?" And he said, "I think he's better off in New York. Toronto's not the right place for him," whatever that's supposed to mean.